All right. You know, I want to go look. Where is the delve person? There's like a little mole or something over here, right? Where I can delve. There he is. Grant me companion levels. Ooh. Alright. How do I look at my companion now? Do I have to do that somewhere else? Is that in my spell book? Oh. Yeah, I see Brand's power is increased, but where is he at? Brand is powerful. Is there like a menu for that? Options, delve. Companion. Nope. Nope. Okay, I'm sure if I get this man to send me to a delve at some point, it'll work fine. Surely nothing could not work. No way. What is this ability called? This is probably it. Yeah. So little baby damage. Alright, good to know. All these weapons absolutely suck now because of the tank changes. So you're just gonna want stat weapons. Unless they have full stat weighting. Which I guess we can see if they have full stat weighting. Is there another weapon in here? That is the weapon. Here's another weapon. It's an int weapon though, so it's kind of hard to see. This one has less. Oh, excuse me. So in theory, that would mean that our weapon is good, but don't actually know. Is there another weapon in here? I don't think so. Is this even from the raid? Loot. Nerub-ar Palace. Where are the weapons at, guys? Here you go. Not. It is most definitely not from the raid. If I go down to normal, is that like the eye level I'm at right now? Like 600? Yeah, so it's got normal stat weights. That's good. So this must be like a world thing then. Not that it matters. Siege of Morales. Oh, they changed a bunch of these trinket thingies. Alright, so let's put on... Let's put on this one, because that one's good. And then... yeah, I don't have any trinkets on this guy. When Snaggy's showing up, I think we're doing stuff at around 3 my time, so in about 10-ish minutes. So soon TM. Let's go Guardian here. A lot of these trinkets are fake. Pick up this one, I guess. They're all real trinkets. That's a real trinket. That's a real trinket cape. There's this weird transmitter shit. That one's good. I think that's all of them. Repair, woo! One time say thank you for your due. No problem at all, my friend. Happy to help. Glad you enjoy the content. Glad you find it useful. Really love that you two are collaborating together. Channel needs more exposure and both you guys are great for the community. Yeah, Stanky's a great guy. I've really enjoyed talking to him, so it's been a good time for sure. Love to see two of you add Quasi to the mix as well. Yeah, actually am. I think the time zones may begin to be problematic at that point. Because Stanky's EU, I'm NA, and I think Quasi he's in like Singapore, right? Yeah, that would be cool. I really liked Quasi's content that he was putting out where he was doing like translations of the really high Chinese key runs. That was really cool. Here we go. Dude, why are time zones a thing? Fake. Okay. Let me go fly somewhere. Not in the middle of the city. Is that my braid buff? Good. My binds okay for this? I mean, like, they're... What is this? Oh, it's shred. That should be... Oh, no. I can't change the binds. Right. Maybe I should put that at 4, though. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so today we're going to talk about Sikrin, we're going to talk about Silken Court, and I don't know if we're going to talk about Queen Ansarek, because we're going to be totally off, because this boss is... There's so much going on, and there's no actual info available in terms of testing. We saw the boss platform, and that's about it. So it's probably, you know, impossible to actually say. Important. I wonder if this goes on... This is like a 10-yard AoE on everyone. Not every... It can't be on everyone. Because it drops these puddles, right? When a player touches the froth, it afflicts them with concentrated toxin and pops, inflicting nature damage to players with 10 yards and knocking them into the air. This is okay, so this is really cool. Just like here, so it's gonna mark some people with this toxin, right? It's a 10-yard AoE. It's gonna leave this 10-yard like gas, I guess. It's gonna be like gas. And then there's this other mechanic, which is like a ring AoE from the boss. If this touches the gas, it's bad. But you can have someone touch the gas to like dissipate it right before the Nova touches it. And if it touches dissipated gas, it turns into a puddle instead. Otherwise, what's this? It's a wipe, basically. You can heal through this on Heroic. Can you heal through it on Mythic? My guess it's a wipe on Mythic. 1.1 million damage every 2 seconds for 20 seconds. I mean, again, you could probably heal through one stack, but that sounds giga rough. So you need to have players step onto these things before the Nova touches them, so they just turn into acid puddles. Yeah. What is this? This is what the Soaker gets this debuff. On Heroic and above, each nearby ally that receives diluted toxin. I don't know what that is. Oh. Inflicts some damage every second for 6 seconds, and it stacks and expires. Their victim receives reactive trauma, so they can't. So you have to rotate who's soaking these puddles too. 1.3 million each damage to players within 10 yards and ejects toxic waves. Each nearby ally that receives diluted toxin reduces the effects. So if you have more people come by, they will also get this diluted toxin debuff, which is a 3-yard AoE around them. But that'll reduce the damage to the actual soaker themselves. I feel like you may still ignore this mechanic and you just have them soak it with a big defensive. Well, it's an interesting concept. It's just so much coordinate. Like on Mythic, dude, holy, you're gonna have to have like teams of like 3 or 4 come over to these and then rotate which person's actually popping it. I guess that kind of works, right? Depending on the number of things, like maybe you say it's like teams of 3 and you need like 3 teams of 3 and you just rotate because they come out like every minute. Which person of the 3 is the one actually touching it? The other 2 just need to be nearby. That's a lot though. And that's only the first 2 mechanics. So yeah, there's there's a lot. It's a root. So it's like a swirly. Yeah, I don't know if this is a swirly you have to dodge or if this is a targeted thing you have to break them out and it leaves stuff on the ground. Could be either. 6.5 million nature damage, 2.1 million fizz damage, and then 1 million nature damage every second for 30 seconds. You take 240% increased fizz dam. Acidic juice explode outward from Ansrect, forming acid and causing acid splash. So she spawns area denial every time she tank busters. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Razagas with the fizz dam amp. Let's see though. And the dot. 1 million nature damage every second is nothing for tanks. Is that mythic though? Wait, was that mythic? No, it's heroic. We go to Dragonflight, Vault. Just look at Razagath. The electrified jaws. I mean, yeah, very similar, right? Where it's a fizz nature hit, and then you take a nature dot every second for 30 plus seconds with a fizz dam amp. It's very, very similar to Razagath. Which likely means that you'll be taunting back and still have this debuff for a couple seconds, so you have some very dangerous melees when you taunt back initially. It's mythic. Like even now, like I'm in what, normal gear, and I have 8 million health, so losing 2 million health per second on mythic pre-mitigation. Yeah, like I'll be like 10 eye levels higher than this. You won't even be losing like a quarter of your HP pre-mitigation. So it seems like a little baby dot. The real danger will be taunting back. What's this? Feast on our current target. Fizz Dam. Vicious Chomp rips away a chunk of flesh, absorbing 17.4 million healing. This wound absorbs additional healing equal to 100% of the physical damage done. Yo, Water. Appreciate the follow, my friend. Thank you. On our difficulty and above, the healing absorption amount changes based on this. Okay, so if this is pure fizz too. So if you just mitigate this to like nothing, this doesn't get any increase, I guess. Because this seems like this is the base, and then it can increase based on the damage done. Then 11 September season starts, then Mythic opens 1 week. Yeah, so the first week is just Heroic week. Yes, September 10th for NA, September 11th for EU. That week is just Heroic, and then Mythic is the week after. We don't know the state of Mythic Plus in that first week, but that's how the raids are going to work for sure. Yeah, because I don't think they've said anything about Mythic Plus and that system, how it's going to work. Like, I don't even know, like, I assume Mythic Zeros aren't even open before the season starts. I know they've, like, had some articles that, like, reference dungeons and stuff at the beginning, but I don't know if they've explicitly come out and said anything about it. Because I think it's just heroics, but non-queuable heroics in the first 2 weeks of the expansion. Like, you can't actually queue up in the group finder. You have to walk to the dungeons and queue heroics, I think. but I don't actually know. And I think Mythic Zero dungeons even are on a 1-day lockout now instead of 1-week lockout. Where season starts go Mythic Zero Dawn and tank trinket roll. Oh yeah. Which one is that? Where is it? Where is it? Here. But that's the thing. I don't even know if Mythic Zeros are going to be open. Oh, this one. Secondary stat increase. Yeah, that one's nice. Will you give us at least Mythic Zero cheat? Is there a cheat? I don't think there's a cheat. Unless I missed it. I mean, I could have missed it. Oh, like any of the Dawnlit. Yeah, we'll have to see with the Mega Dungeon because I mean, Mega Dungeon seems like a pretty standard thing to happen. I'm kind of happy with there, excuse me, being no cheat death this patch. We just played 2 patches in a row with a cheat death trinket. I'm always cool to spend some time without one, you know. It's definitely more interesting without one. As a tank, in my opinion, you get more trinket choices as long as there are good trinket choices. But I don't know how much of a fan I am of the current set of trinket choices. But speaking of, I think I was gonna try this one, right? Yeah. You design a cheat death, 8-minute CD talent, give tanks with default. Yeah, I mean some of them do have it, right? And some of them have it built in different ways, right? So like Paladin has like the little pseudo cheat death big DR at the bottom of the tree, and they have a cheat on Ardent. Obviously DKs, they have Purg. Demon Hunters have Last Resort. I don't know if every tank needs a cheat death, but it is certainly nice to have one, you know. It's just cheat deaths are so OP and high in content, you know. It's just when you're able to get insta-gibbed and die. Oh yeah, high 4 keys, yeah, definitely. Especially yeah, if your cheat death goes on cooldown and you're like, oh no, you're just anxious for the next 7 minutes. Getting it ready. Should be good to go.
Yellow.
Yo, how's it going, man?
I think I'm alive-ish.
Nice. That's always good.
How is it with you?
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, I've been looking at stuff for raid testing this week. Getting hype.
It's is it? Yeah, right. It's this week. Man, there's not enough time to exist anymore. There's just stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Almost enjoyed having 1 week off from raid testing every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the last week unless they need to retest any mythic bosses, because I think it's just LFR after Wednesday, Thursday, and then that's it.
Yeah, from what I remember, it's just yeah, LFR after. But like you said, it could be retesting. Could have an SLG.
True.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, LSG and like Council of Blood, I think, got tested a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know which one was more, but both were, yeah, in interesting states. Council, they kind of manage SLG though. SLG though. 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. Trying always not to proc cheat death. Yeah, usually I feel like pretty chill while I have the cheat death available, but then I'll do something stupid and proc it, you know?
So I'm trying to remember. We only had Silken Court and Sikrin, right?
Yeah, we'd done the other, what is that, 5? Because we had done the testing already, and so yeah, we just have the 2. I don't know if you wanted to cover Queen Ansorek as well, just because that's just I guess us reading the dungeon journal, but we can go through it. I was starting to read it today, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much in this boss.
Dude, I actually have not even looked into it. I was like, I saw all the abilities, and I was like, yeah, there's no testing. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, I'm happy to just leave it at the 7, and you know, we'll see Queen Ansorek in week 1 of the patch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first
But
ability on
there's
Queen
a lot of
Ansorek,
abilities.
literally just look at the first one, Reactive Toxin. It like folds
Okay.
down and it folds down and it folds down. The first ability has like 6 different tabs. It's good.
Oh god, I'm gonna have fun making a guide for this.
Yeah,
I always keep remembering first boss in oh, what's it called? Battle of the Zara Lore. Which had, you know, an enormous amount of abilities for a boss that died in
that
40
did nothing.
seconds and nothing happened. But it was like every mob had like 6 separate casts with, you know, fold down menus and everything. But in the end, it was like, okay, kite this one and just nuke boss. I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
So I missed the first Sikrin testing. But we got to retry it on Heroic, right?
Yeah,
So we've done
luckily.
Sikrin twice. So I don't know how it was on the first week. Like, did a lot change between the 2 weeks, or was it
So
just
there was a
tuning?
couple changes in the journal. Not all of them actually seem to be implemented in the actual second testing, but generally the fight was the same. So we can kind of go through and talk about the abilities. I can like do a little point on what they changed between the 2 testings, though I'm not sure it's we can also just ignore the first testing and act how the abilities are supposed to function.
Yeah, I could probably do that. I have a footage up as well, but we can I guess we can go through the dungeon journal for Sikrin. So like the main thing on Heroic, and well, I guess every difficulty, was the simulacrum. That X amount of players, I think it's always 4.
Yeah, it seemed like 4.
Yeah, so I don't think it scales up or down with size and like normal Heroic.
Yeah.
I think it's always 4. That you then have to place in a good place. Players get targeted to charge through like Sire Denafri's blade.
Yeah.
I think it even went the same kind of route, so you could use a similar weak aura.
Yeah.
But either way, that one goes out. Each player hit by it drops a simulacrum, and players that aren't targeted by it, if they get hit by it, they also spawn a simulacrum. So you have to manage those lines without anyone else getting hit, or rather players have to make sure they don't get charged when they're not targeted. And then you blow them all up with decimates.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's important too. It's like the charge does charge between the 4 players in a specific order, like you said, like Remornia's back in Castle Nathria, or for a more recent example, like the Forgotten Experiments charge. You kind of see the arrows between all the players. Unlike the Forgotten Experiment stuff, this isn't currently a private aura. So actually what we saw is during the Mythic testing of this boss, which we've also already done, is that some guilds, ours included, now has a weak aura already for the mechanic that tells you exactly where to go in terms of like positioning. So it numbers you 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can all stand in a line basically and not worry about potential cleaving, which is kind of funny.
It's a bit weird though,
yeah,
when they want to let players not use weak auras, and then they do mechanics like this. This one could be solved without a weak aura. Like, this one doesn't need a weak aura.
Exactly. This is the exact mechanic where I would have no issues with it being a private aura.
Right?
Compared
like,
to...
This is the perfect one.
Yeah, like compared to Brood Twister and the AoE detonate eggs that we were talking about earlier. Where that is a private aura when it probably shouldn't be. It's rough because like the big thing we were talking about, because we were like, okay, if they do make this a private aura, what's the strategy? Well, you look at Remornia, and the strategy was to just make a triangle and you would never cleave each other. And so similar idea, you make kind of a trapezoid type shape, and you're never going to cleave each other if you do that, right? Obviously, you know, you have to play a little bit on the fly, but it's not, you have enough time with the debuff that it doesn't feel oppressive. So I actually, in this case, would like Blizzard to slap a private aura on this, I think.
I mean, right here it just makes sense to have it on a private aura because, like, I'm on team. I don't want weak auras. Like, I hate using weak auras for raid fights, but it's a means to an end, if you will.
Yeah.
Some things you just have to. But whenever a fight is completely dictated by a weak aura, I tend to not like it. So slapping private aura on mechanics that are, you know, well televised, telegraphed was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Then you slap it on there and we can solve it ourselves. Like, this one makes perfect sense. And like you said, there are a ton of time. I think it's like 4 or 5 seconds before she starts charging.
Yeah, it might even be longer than that. It's
It
just
could
like,
be.
yeah, it's any of
Lasts
these
forever.
mechanics that have good telegraphs, like you're saying, they give you time to react, and they're on a relatively low amount of players. Any of those kinds of mechanics, I think, is fine to private aura, right? Another good example
Yeah.
was the soaks in phase 1 of Mythic for Rack, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are perfectly fine to be a private aura. You had 3 people that got targeted, you had a decent amount of time, and you could pre-position to the spots kind of or already, right? So it's those kinds of mechanics that I'm perfectly happy with them private oraing.
Yeah, I mean, even Smolderon would have worked better if they just gave it a little bit more time
Yeah.
and changed the colors of the 4 orbs, or
Yeah.
giving them some kind of indication that this is, so you can call it right, because that was the issue. You could never call anything with how they were.
Yeah.
Regardless, jumping back to Sikren, each of these simulacrum that they spawned, if I remember correctly, they also pulse out AoE on the entire raid. So the more simulacrums you have, the more damage the entire raid takes, which is why you don't want several players to get hit from the charge or from what spawns them. Forget what it's called. Lunge?
Yeah, the phase blades is what spawns them, I think.
Phase blades.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
phase lunge. I'm seeing it on my screen right now. It says phase lunge.
Oh, does it say phase lunge? Oh, there you go.
It has face blade as well. So okay, face lunge is another one. Face blade is the uh, arrows, I
Oh,
think.
I think phase
Uh,
lunge is the tank buster. Yeah, phase lunge is the tank
ah,
buster. Yeah.
in my head that would make sense to reverse them, because a lunge feels some more,
Yeah, like he's
dashy
dashing.
than a blade.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's strange. Regardless, so you don't want more players to get hit by the face blade, because then the raid gets decimated. But then you also have the follow-up mechanic, which is decimation, which clears them. And for each simulacrum that you clear, the raid gets a stacking dot. So it's, yeah, more simulacrums bad. If you have to clear more of them, well, healers are gonna cry. Probably gonna be fun on farm though.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems almost like a bit of a like a Taros situation, right? Where you're spawning those pillars and then you're just trying to kill them all instantly, and you obviously have the choice with this because of course at the end of the spawn, I believe heroic there were 2 sets of ad spawns, 2 sets of the explosions to destroy ads, and then the boss at full energy does this big sweeping 15-yard AoE around him that also detonates any remaining guys. So
Yeah.
if you miss any of them, they'll detonate at the end. It doesn't do extra damage. It's just they'll detonate at the end. But obviously you can't then never hit an ad because then you're gonna get, a billion stacks at
One
the end.
heal?
But I mean, maybe that's also a strategy, right? Potentially, maybe you do want to
It
do that.
could be.
And you're like, okay, this
It all
passive
depends
healing
on.
isn't too bad, but we can stack our barriers, our spirit links, or whatever, and just live through the giga detonation.
I mean, it hasn't been unheard of strats like that. It all depends on how they tune it. Another viable thing you could do is quite easily split it up, which might be more of a mythic mechanic. I don't think you do that on heroic, but where you could, clear 2, 2, and then let the big bomb clear 4 of them,
Yeah.
or how many ever you have out. So you get, small increment of damage taken, and then the raid can pop big coolies for one big smack if you can clear all then with one. But on heroic, it mostly serves as a way to not fall behind. Like, even if you fail you can still salvage it by just healing through when it clears them, as long as it's not like 12 of them at the same time.
Yeah, and it's actually a good point. We should probably talk about how this has changed on Mythic. I don't know if you did the Mythic testing for this boss.
I
And
did.
you did, okay, yeah, because the ability cadence is actually different on Mythic compared to on Heroic, where you actually will get 3 sets of ads and only 2 detonations on Mythic.
Yeah.
So you have to let the big boss AoE at the end detonate some amount usually, unless you're really, really,
Yeah.
really good with your positioning. So then it becomes a whole thing of like how many are we actually being able to hit with each set of the decimates. And actually also something we didn't mention, whenever these ads get hit with a decimate or are detonated by the boss, they leave a big puddle on the ground. So you actually
Right.
want to
Right.
position these away from the center of the platform most likely, and try and conserve space as best you can with where you're positioning the phase blade hits.
So one thing we did with that while testing is we kind of used the room as a pie chart, if you will.
Yeah.
So you could drop it in one location, and as soon as they drop, the entire raid just moves. And then you just keep going like that around the edge of the room. And you can even put them, like during Heroic, we didn't care too much about it because you weren't going to run out of space. But you can easily put them all the way out of the ledge and then put a separate set in front of that and just build in towards the middle and then go around the entire platform like that. So you don't have to use a lot of space. It's just even on Mythic, like I think it was 5 yards that you had to spread them, and you can still have them very close with that.
Yeah, and actually, let's talk about that mechanic. So yeah, that is the mythic change to phase blades. Is if you ever have a simulacrum, sorry, within 5 yards of another simulacrum, it basically is a raid wipe. That is it's a very early boss to put a
Yeah,
full raid wipe mechanic from one mistake, uh, one minor
it's an
positioning mistake,
interesting choice.
because it's the third boss in the raid, right? So this is
Yeah.
because that was, it was very easy, in our testing. It
Oh yeah.
happened all the time because with the frequency of this ability, right? Like it comes out 3 times per cast of the big AoE, and the big AoE, is probably getting cast, 4 or
Like
5
every minute or
times.
something.
Yeah, like over the course of the fight, 5 times is probably
Yeah.
a good place to call it. So 15 of those casts, and if anyone ever messes up your positioning even a little bit, someone else gets caught, you double hit by accident,
Yeah.
you're instant wipe, dead.
And I think that's gonna be the most common case, is just some extra person getting hit for X or Y reason. Like the 4 targeted players can probably quite consistently solve it, but it's anywhere anyone else just YOLOs around.
Yep.
Mages
Melee.
blink, stuff like that. Melee being melee. Need my up. Oh yeah, no, that's true. That is 100% what's gonna happen. Because I remember during testing, I kept telling people, "Don't chase the boss. Wait for the charge to get done." Of course, I myself chased it a couple of times, but let's not talk about that.
Do as I
But
say,
it
not
seemed
as
like
I
you
do.
could. But like if you charged it while she was dashing around, you'd spawn a
Oh,
simulacrum.
nice.
Uh, so depending on the angle of approach of everything, but I think we're gonna see a lot of depths of that. Melee chasing boss, spawning more simulacrum, everyone dies. Sad times.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like you said, I hadn't even thought about that. That it's the third boss. So yeah, that could be interesting. But the
Yeah.
mechanic wouldn't be fun if it wasn't an instant wipe. On the other hand, like. Maybe they could tone it down though, so it's just extremely punishing, and you have to spend a lot of extra healing that you didn't plan on, but you can still heal through until you're able
Yeah.
to clear it.
Like if you make it
Could be a
equivalent to like a 4-stack popping or something like that, maybe, of the ad debuff, you know what I mean?
yeah, because then at least you can feel like you can contribute to, solving the fuck up rather than just okay, we pull again, because that's kind of the case with all those mechanics.
Yeah, and like
One thing I wanted to ask
yep.
before I forget, I remember during the second heroic testing, someone mentioned that decimate was supposed to change so it doesn't travel through players. It
Yes.
just, but that didn't seem to be the case. But do you have any
No.
info on that?
So the wording of the ability does seem like decimate is supposed to stop. So these are lines that shoot out from the boss that will explode if they hit one of the simulacrums, right, and destroy them and put the dot on the raid. In the first testing, this was piercing the players, and it was expected to pierce the players because of the wording in the dungeon journal. They changed the ability between the first and the second testing, so it appears like it's no longer supposed to actually stop at the player. I think this is worse, to be honest with you,
Oh
because
yeah,
now,
much worse.
like melee, for example, need to run to be behind an actual simulacrum rather, to actually even hit it and not just position themselves accordingly while maintaining boss uptime. So I hope it's just a mistake in the dungeon journal, but the current wording
Yeah.
of the dungeon journal does seem like the ability should stop at the player.
Yeah,
So
and
I
again,
don't know.
if it wasn't like the third boss in the raid, I could see a mechanic like that being something because it's way harder to execute, in my opinion. Because you'd either, like you said, have to lose a metric ton of uptime as melee, or you'd have to figure out a strat where you have the boss next to all the simulacrums all the time, so melee can easily clear.
Yeah, it's
But I think it's
just
much better to just stay at boss and let the beam travel through. So
and it's even more annoying for range too, right? Like it's horrendous for
yeah, true.
melee, but like even range, like if you're depending on how you're positioning things, you need to run
Yeah.
further as a range player too to actually be able to hit these mobs. And so, I mean, maybe that's the intention, but it certainly makes the fight less melee friendly compared to ranged.
But even so, like you said, now that I'm thinking about it, the range will also get like super punished for, or we just have to use way less space. Because if you have a range standing, close to the middle, and you're dropping the simulacrums at the ledge, they'll have to travel like 30 to 50 yards to get behind them.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they again, all range just have to stay on top of the simulacrums until the mechanic comes out. I
y-
mean, that just sounds like ass as well.
yeah, and I think yeah, potentially to help with this, I mean that what we were talking about potentially doing, what some teams were doing on Mythic, is instead of like tanking the boss, somewhat closer to the middle of the room, and then people go to the edges to drop the simulacrums. What we were starting to do instead was to actually start tanking on the edge of the room and rotate around, what I guess that's clockwise around the room, and then having
Yeah,
people line up, the four people line up according to that weak aura we were talking about, just directly
yeah,
behind the boss. Then we just keep kiting forward and forward and forward and keep dropping behind the boss, moving, drop behind the boss, moving, drop behind the boss,
yeah.
moving. And so that actually conserved a ton of space and does help a little bit with the whole getting behind the simulacrum thing if that's a real issue to worry about, but it's still definitely a bit annoying for sure.
But I can see that totally being the strat. I mean, we did similar, but we had, we were more in towards the middle, so we had like 10 yards between boss and the ledge, but we still went just round and round, dropped them. But I think yours will work for sure better if we have to drop them behind. I also think there could be a world where you could potentially just stack them in existing pool. Like one or two
Yeah,
players can run
potentially.
in, drop their simulacrums, uh,
Yeah.
especially on Mythic. But it depends on, I mean, how much the puddle will hurt and how much space will be an actual issue.
Yeah, because there's a real world where this is because it's a third boss is not a real DPS check, right?
Yeah,
And so instead it's just a pure mechanics check, and then you're not too worried about space. But maybe first couple weeks of Mythic, it's a
yeah.
really tight DPS check, and all of a sudden you actually do want to do both and min max your space and your damage. So interesting fight nonetheless. I actually did really enjoy this fight.
Oh yeah, me too. It's really fun. The one thing I had a little bit of an issue. I don't think it'll be an issue once you're in an organized raid, but I would really love for the simulacrums to have something more than purple because the puddle we're back to purple on fucking purple. Like everything else I've seen in the War Within has been so good with telegraphing mechanics. But then they put the simulacrum to be the player's avatar that spawns it. So if you have a Volpera, first of all, it's freaking
Oh
tiny.
yeah, I
If you
remember
have,
that. Yeah,
uh, and they're purple against purple puddles with purple. It's just come on, change those or put a little arrow above their head or something. I need to because it was a lot of times when I wasn't 100% sure where a simulacrum was, and I was looking around the room trying to find okay which one is spawned in China that I need to run all the way over there and I just couldn't see them. I knew there was one. I was like, oh, okay, it's neck and neck with the puddle, and blending in perfectly. And when you only have 2-3 seconds with the decimation, it's
Yeah.
not great.
Yep. I guess we can
Is there
touch on
anything
the
else on this one?
the tank combo we didn't talk about because this
Oh
is the
yeah.
only boss in the entire raid that has a combo tank buster, similar to like the Rashocks of the world. So it's
I heard.
basically it's basically like two of these like fizz hits that makes you take more fizz dam, followed by a really really big shadow and fizz hit that makes you take more damage from that hit. So basically, one tank takes the first two hits, and then the other tank takes the big hit, and then also has to tank until the next thing, where then they'll take the two smaller hits because you can't actually tank the boss very well when you have that massive physical damage amp from taking the first two hits. But it's pretty straightforward. It's not, and you can also even live the third hit if your tank forgets to taunt off, because it's not.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not an insane amount of damage, and because it's amping only the physical portion of it, which a lot of tanks have heavy physical DRs, it's not too bad. But obviously, you don't want to tank all three.
But there was no random element to it.
No,
I was
no.
remembering from my old tanking days, when it was okay, which attack is it gonna be next, and the whole taunt rotation depends on that. God, I never liked those mechanics.
Yeah, they're okay. They're not my favorite for sure, but they at least mix something up, and I think we talked
I
about
mean,
it
that's true.
a little earlier the last time we talked about this place, but the tank mechanics are kind of boring.
Yeah,
And
I've seen, we've talked about it, and I've seen other tanks complain that it's like nothing. There's taunt and move a little bit.
Queen Ansarek sounds interesting. Everyone else seems kind of boring.
But that's we could probably have a whole other evening talking about tank stuffs in raids, which I would like because it'd be fun. But I know there's so many raids where it's the last two that gets fun for tanks. Like everything else is like you're there and DPS will yell at you if you fuck up. That's your entire raid prog up until the two last boss, and then it's just mind-blowingly epic.
Yeah, no, I mean Tindril was a crazy fight as an example, because I was also playing prop paladin on Tindril, so I was full off healer build as prop paladin. I was freedoming people basically on cooldown. I was spell warding people on cooldown, throwing out blessing of sacrifice on cooldown. I barely tanked the boss on that fight. Like the because like the main strat was with blood DK or paladin or really anything, because I think we played that. I think we did that with a brewmaster, actually, not even a blood DK. We were a brewmaster prop paladin when we did it. And so he was tanking the boss, and I was just healing people and doing other stuff. I enjoyed that fight. There's a lot going on for sure compared to like Smolder.
Probably more fun than playing enhancement on it.
Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Enhancement struggled on that fight. I can tell you that much. But it worked. We had Wind Fury at least.
There you go, Sky Fury.
But otherwise, Sky Fury now. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything more on this fight. So
pretty straightforward boss.
I mean, for healers, I think the only thing really is the, well, when the simulacrums go out and you have the simulacrums up, you take ticking damage, and then when you clear them, you take a bunch of ticking damage. Yeah. Can't say if they found it fun or not.
Yeah. It does. It seems like a fun fight, at least though, from everyone else's perspective, and it does seem like there is going to be a decent amount of that ticking damage because there's so many different sources of it. So hopefully keeps healers interested.
One can pray. But I guess we go over to the fun one.
Yeah.
Not saying Silken wasn't fun, but Silken Court was absolutely amazing. I was blown away by that fight.
Yeah, especially considering the last time we had a 2-boss fight as the second last boss of a raid, it was your favorite boss, Stone Legion Generals.
Ooh.
That was the last time.
Yeah, okay, this is the Retribution arc. Almost said. Nobody plays Retribution, right?
especially after they
So I
lost
guess
their
we could
raid
go
buff.
over, like, this boss has a lot of mechanics and a lot of steps, but most of it was pretty straightforward, at least on normal and heroic, and there wasn't a lot of RNG to it. It was just, you know, you have to solve a X or Y mechanic, then the next one, then the next one, and it just rotates a bit.
Yeah.
So I guess we can talk about the most amazing mechanic first, which is the web circles and the web charge.
Oh yeah. That was a really cool mechanic. Definitely a pretty heavy coordination mechanic, but
Oh yeah.
that's kind of expected when you're at the second last boss of a raid, right? Comparatively to when we were just talking about like the third boss of a raid.
And also, I love the fact that they put a very gimmicky mechanic, if you will, with the charge, because it's one of those hit or miss kind of mechanics. And normally, when they put gimmicky shit in it, it's usually not good, in my opinion, because they haven't been that successful with it as of late. But this one works extremely well. It's not buggy at all. It's very responsive and very clear what you need to do and if you've succeeded.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
I just thought it worked so well. Did you ever try to? I guess you didn't when you since you
No.
tanked. You just
Actually, well, I
took
did
a
it
look
once by
at it.
accident. So
Ah,
the way you get the debuff changes throughout the fight, but we can talk about that because in phase 3 everyone will get this web debuff, but initially, at
yeah,
least in phase 1, there's like a few puddles of web that spawn on the ground, and there's like a ball in the center of this bigger puddle, and basically if someone touches the ball, it'll tether them to another player that is in the web area, and it'll make this thing similar to like Laradar, right? If you click on the Laradar firefighter hose, you have that big
yeah,
circle that shows where the hose will snap, kind of thing. It's a very similar
yeah.
thing where the two players both get a big circle indicator that shows where their web tether will snap. And this does a ton of damage to you while you have that tether active, but you need to actually block the boss's charge with your tether. Otherwise, it's a raid wipe. So the boss at some point, one of the bosses is going to jump away and do a big charge at the tank. And then if you need on normal one group of people to put their tether across, on heroic it's 2, and on mythic it's 3 groups of these web tethers across the charge line. And that is
That's gonna be
supposed to, I
interesting.
believe, snap the tethers. It wasn't snapping the tethers in testing. It was only snapping the first tether hit. Um or one of the
And when
tethers
you did
hit.
it on heroic,
Yeah. But oh, so yeah, when we're done heroic,
for
yeah.
us it did on heroic. It snapped both for us, I think.
Yeah, I'm watching the
Might be
footage
wrong.
now. I think sometimes it does snap both, but sometimes it was only snapping one. But I assume it's supposed to snap both. So it, you know, something to be aware of maybe, but it's a super cool looking, interesting mechanic. Like I said, it's a little gimmicky, but I don't mind it. I think it's cool.
No, I don't mind gimmicky
Yeah.
mechanics, but they have to be done well. So it's not, you know, like, oh, this was quirky and then annoying for 500 pulls because it was just quirky. It wasn't fun to play. But this, you know, it requires coordination and it requires more of your team, and especially if you're going to coordinate 6 players doing it.
Yeah,
And
on
then in
Mythic,
the end,
yeah.
you have even more coordination with it whenever one gets webbed. Um, I don't know if you noticed any particular spawn patterns for the circles, or because they dropped on the ground, right? They weren't around players. I gotta look now.
Yeah, I'm checking now. I think they were just random though.
Yeah, that's just random, or it's just swirls. But I wonder if they're based on boss position or player position. Because I mean, it has to be
Oh no,
something
these
because
were
it
all
doesn't spawn, you know,
players.
on opposites.
This was all players. All 4 of these swirlies just spawned exactly on player position. So yeah, they're on players.
Yeah. So then you can probably bait them, which will make coordinating the getting webbed a lot easier. And I guess you could even do, I don't know how, maybe not, it's maybe not needed, but you could just gateway, you know, all 6 players get webbed on one side, 3 of them gateways over to the other side. Because you could always, if I recall, you could always decide where the charge is
Yes, it's always
going.
at the tank. So the tank tanking that boss, the boss he will always charge at them.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
put it where you want to put it. particularly on heroic. We'll talk about mythic problems with that later, but yeah, particularly on heroic, you can kind of put it wherever that tank wants to be, which is nice. So it makes it, you can make it a bit more consistent. Now, I guess something else to note, that is also the only boss that you can control the position of. The other boss is tankable. In fact, you do need a tank to be on her because she just spams a ranged attack. But you can't move that other boss. That other boss just jumps around the room randomly.
Yeah. But wasn't it, or maybe I misunderstood, but wasn't it that the big bug, Anub, always charges towards where her location is? So regardless of where you place Anub, it burrows away and then charges towards the other boss.
I don't. It might have been position. I think it was on the active tank though. I'm not 100%.
I have to rewatch because I want to remember. It just popped up in my head. So hold on, I'm just looking for my footage. So our four-legged boss, Skyne Spinner is their name.
Yeah.
So Skyne Spinner is at a location, and the boss burrows away from her. So boss Frozen is kind of in front of her, and then it burrows away to the opposite side and charges into the boss. And I want to remember it worked like that. So it's always dictated by where Skyne Spinner is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because then the Skyne Spinner just jumps instantly right after the charge lands, but that initial spot gets locked in.
Interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about any of the P1 tank stuff, or if we should jump over to like the ads or the frontal stuffs.
Yeah, the tank stuff, it's the same the entire fight basically. There's like one difference in like the spell school changes in P2. Because basically how the fight works is that, at full energy in P1, or it seemed like 66% health, you transitioned into the second phase, and then Skyne Spinner got empowered, and then at 33% health, or when they hit 100 energy again, you transitioned into the last phase, and then a noob got empowered in that last that phase.
Yeah.
But either way, basically Skyne Spinner just constantly shoots a magic hit at the active tank, which also puts a dot onto them. So in phase 1 it's a poison dot, and then in phase 2 and 3 it's a magic dot. So you can dispel it actually, but it's kind of, you only would want to dispel it between ability casts, because it seems like she casts Poison Bolt like 5 times in a row on that tank, reapplying the dot. And then she does some other mechanics, and then she goes back to casting it like 5 times in a row, that kind of thing.
But could you cleanse the poison
as
well, or was it just the magic?
Yeah.
Hey, Shaman, poison cleanse. I'm not going to use it, though.
Yep. No, that's the global. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Use a global.
And then for a noob, it was just a physical hit on the tank that increased their damage from that physical hit. So that was the only one forcing you to taunt off, was the noob one. Though we were doing some math on it, and at least on heroic for sure, it's like a very large amp, right? It's like a 500% amp or something like that, I think, if I remember right, the actual number. I guess I can look at the dungeon journal. Piercing strike. It's only a 100% amp on piercing strike, it looks like. Yeah, so like in theory, because it's a pure physical hit and it's a blockable hit and that kind of thing, you can actually like tank quite a few of those in a row. So like, especially on heroic, so you're not necessarily forced to swap off, but that is what they intend you to swap off at, is the piercing strike hits.
Do you remember the duration of it?
Yeah, it's like 35 seconds, it says in the journal here.
So it's my old tank brain doing numbers, because I was like, can't you have like a Fury Warrior intervene that one with a bop, and then you can just solo tank it?
Potentially.
I'm not sure why you need it, but my brain always starts, coming up with stupid, wild theories of how you could cheese things when you tank.
Because what we were talking about is, can a prop warrior solo tank a Nerub-ar for an entire phase? Because I believe he doesn't do too many casts of that ability. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 5?
percentage based, or like either energy or percentage. Because if it's percentage based, you could have, if you have enough DPS, you can get there, have it solo tankable.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it looks like there's 4 casts in each phase. The boss does 4 casts of that tank buster ability, the physical one. And so in theory, like if you were to run a prot warrior, because we're talking about tank comps and stuff like that, like a prot warrior could probably take 3 of those hits, then you'd only need another tank to take 1.
Yeah.
Because a prot
And that
warrior,
could be an intervening
yeah, I
intervening
mean it could
warrior with
be.
Bob.
It could also be you just have the other tank take the first one of the fight, which happens quite early, and then you take the rest of the phase.
Do you really trust tanks to do things?
True, that is true actually.
True.
All they know how to do
that
is
could
taunt
work.
off. Unbelievable.
Right. And yell for 1 heal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
usually what I do.
Yeah. Because the thing with prot warriors, like we were talking about, like, okay, so what tanks would we want to consider, and where would they potentially struggle? And like prot warrior, I feel like would actually struggle quite a bit trying to tank Sky Spinner for an extended amount of time. And so we were talking about ways to potentially avoid that from ever happening. And that's, oh, how long can a prot warrior tank a Nubarash? Because that's the damage profile they're really, really good against. And so potentially it's 90% of the phase if you are able to actually survive that 3rd damage amped hit. So it's a little interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I guess we'll see where they end up tuning wise, because they can always crank that up
Yeah,
if they feel like it, and do it into a 500% damage increase, and then get screwed. But then you have the alternative here. The second boss is a caster. Return of Warlock or Mage tank.
Let's go.
You just have an Arcade Mage spam, Arcane Barrage, just pull aggro on the caster one, and you just spam heal it, throw cooldowns. Should work. Has worked in the past.
Yeah. The boss does do a lot of damage. The Sky Spinner one, she seemed, or they seemed to extremely out damage a Nubarash in terms of the damage output, because they just spammed that bolt ability like 5 or 6 times in a row. It was very spooky whenever they were bolting.
But it's also a Blood DK's wet dream.
Yeah, well, assuming they have a target, because the problem for a Blood DK is Sky Spinner randomly is just gonna jump away from you and then start spamming Poison Bolt.
But does Blood DK have Rider of the Apocalypse,
Nope.
or do they not?
No, they do not. It's very sad.
Can't get Speedy Horse.
No.
Well, I guess Blood DK's dead then.
All right.
Rip Blood DKs. But then moving on in phase 1, we also have the poison circles that just seem to target random players and do a little spread out. They didn't seem to do that much. It's just your rando raid damage, and don't stack on other players unless you wish them harm. I know I stacked on the tank a couple of times for that reason.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah, they like to be punished. They could take it. So that one didn't seem like a major mechanic to really care about, just pre-spread before it goes out. But then we had the bugs. That was a little weird. So from what I could see, they just fixated on players, and if they reach the player, they smack the player a bit. It didn't seem to do much more than that, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, they applied a debuff as well, like a damage taken increase debuff. So you probably don't want to ever actually be hit by them. And they were fully CCable for a bit. I think at some point they're supposed to enrage. But it seemed pretty straightforward. So basically, like the Anubarash does like I think he spawns some, and then he does like a frontal attack at a random player. So you're trying to avoid the frontal. And then you're also trying to see who's fixated and get away from your Scarab. And then this is actually a situation where individual grips are very, very good. So like even a DPS DK could be good to kind of like grip those ads either together or onto one of the bosses, that kind of thing. Just so you can easily like stun them, slow them, and cleave them down. But it seemed like 3 ads were spawning at a time for us. I don't know if you had the same number, if it was based on raid size or
same.
Okay, yeah. So 3 ads at a time, which is not too many. So it's not like you need mass grips or anything. And this didn't happen very often either, actually.
No, it seemed to be like once in between charges.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so like twice
like
only in the
per
first
charge.
phase. Yeah.
Yeah. So they didn't seem to do much. Was a nice funnel. And like you said, they'll be pretty easy to control overall, because like either you have the initial grips or knock-ins or knockbacks, or if they spawn well, you can just like insta root them and nuke them down. And I assume like they seem to spawn on players or near players at least. So you can always pull a noob towards them. Although, like you said, it seemed to always overlap with the frontals. You'd spawn, he cast Call of the Swarm, and then instantly into the frontal. But after that, you can pull him into the ads.
Yeah, yeah. Not too difficult. Fairly straightforward. But that is just phase 1.
Yeah,
We've got
we
2 more
got
phases to go.
But I don't think it was anything else in phase 1. So you had to do the web thingy, run into the web, get webbed with a friend, and have a noob charge through it.
That was the big one.
Then
yeah.
at first intermission is the Shatter Existence, so where a noob burrows down and Skyne Spinner jumps into the middle and starts blasting out voidy web cones that hurts a bit and knocks you back, but it did actually not on heroic at least flat out kill you.
Yeah, the dance was a little interesting too because you basically have kind of like 2 safe spots, because what you're trying to do here is stand in the room gets divided, at least on heroic, into what is this, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 spots. Is that right? Yeah. No, that can't be right. 2 4 6 8 spots. There you go. It's divided into 8. Counting is hard. But basically it goes in waves of 2. So there's 4 different waves of webs, and they detonate in order after they've spawned. So you want to try and stand next to, the web that is detonating first, but not if it's the web that's detonating second, because you can actually get cleaved if you are slow. And it's expected that maybe this detonates faster on Mythic, because on normal it was slower than heroic when we were doing testing. So you really, really want to make sure that you're standing on either the 3rd or the 4th set of webs next to the first set of webs, so that you can quickly move into the first set of webs after it detonates before yours does.
I really like that mechanic overall. Like you said, on normal and heroic, and at least normal, it was quite easy to stand next to the one that's going to detonate next, because you kind of always had time to run between them. But if it's the case that it goes even faster in Mythic, then you'll for sure have to be on the 3rd or 4th, so you can just insta-yeet into the first one that detonates. I wonder if it's gonna flat out one-shot you on Mythic, though. I would assume.
Yeah.
Quite sad, but also pretty cool animation for it with the voidy webs.
Yeah. And of course, this kind of like symbolizing the whole like Skyne Spinner is getting empowered by the void. And so in this next phase, you're dealing with the empowered mechanics on that boss. And Anubarash actually has a few less mechanics, right? Like you're no longer doing the charge in this second phase. It's not a thing he does anymore.
No, you get the swarms. I wanted to add one thing about the first intermission also, is that to end the intermission, you have to break the absorb around the boss.
Yeah.
So Shatter Existence starts casting, they get a huge absorb on them, and the faster you break it, the faster you get out of the intermission, which is quite nice. Also that it's not completely time-based, because that'll make farm more fast, and it's also more rewarding, like, can you manage to blast it down or not? One thing, though, the healers mentioned, which I don't know if it's something they're gonna change or not, but there was no rot damage or anything during this intermission. You just dodged the waves. Healers could literally AFK. So, unlike when you played Rashuk and you had a similar mechanic, but everything, you were just blasted constantly. Here, there was 0 damage during the intermission, unless you got hit.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if it's intended, because it's a bit weird.
There was some very light damage. So there was, if you stood in the webs, you were slowed and you took very light ticking damage. But I believe it looks like, looking at Mythic, there is apparently a damage hit every 22 seconds on Mythic.
What?
It's a bit, where did it go? Oh, I lost it. Stage 1 transition. There it is. Yeah, Entropic Barrage unleashes a barrage of void energy, inflicting 1.7 million shadow damage to all players. And it says that happens every 22 seconds, But that's not
But
a
that
lot
seems
of
very long.
damage. Yeah.
No, but that seems very long in
Yeah,
between. Do they expect you to
exactly.
be in the intermission for 44 seconds or more?
I don't know. My thought is that maybe this is a damage event that is supposed to be. Oh, you know what? No, I know exactly what this is. Wait, is this? Let me double check something. I think this has to do with the mythic mechanic. It does. Okay, ignore that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll get to that. We'll see here. Oh, that was the wrong face.
But yeah,
Check my footage.
yeah,
But yeah, after we break that one, we get into the second phase, and like you said, no more charge, no more ads spawning. I believe. I think it's only Skyn really doing
Oh no,
things.
there's some ads in this phase still. Looks like, yeah.
Oh, there is. Okay.
But he lost, or Nubarash
Oh yeah,
lost
yeah.
his big charge mechanic, and then instead he's got the bugs, the stinging swarms.
Yeah, right.
So that's basically a magic debuff that goes out on 3 players on heroic, and this is no duration. You just take ramping, ticking damage while you have it on you, and if it gets dispelled, it goes to the nearest player or Skyn Spinner. So it will go on to Skyn Spinner if you dispel right next to them. The one thing to be aware of, though, is that this does get a duration if it goes onto Skyn Spinner. So it goes to a 12-second duration from Infinite. And the whole thing here is that occasionally Skyn Spinner will do a big raid-wide wipe cast in, what's this called? Cataclysmic Entropy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cataclysmic something at least.
Yeah, that one. Yep. And basically, the only way to stop this cast from going off is by having the boss reach a 3 stack of that debuff on heroic. I think it's 5 on mythic. But you dispel basically 3 players onto that boss as the closest target within, refreshing that 12-second window, not letting it expire. And that disorients the boss. So you have to time the disorient for the cast to actually interrupt it, because if you trigger it early, it doesn't interrupt it. And the fun part is that dispelling that debuff also is a raid-wide hit. So you can't necessarily stack them all up or do all the dispels back to back to back to back. You need to give your healers a bit of time to heal. But again, you have about 12 seconds maximum between each of your dispels. So you have a little bit of breathing room.
So the question is, with that one thing that came to mind is, like you said, the disorient on Skyn Spinner doesn't kick in until the 3rd stack. And she does, or a noob puts out the swarm before she starts casting, or they start casting Cataclysmic, whatever. So you could potentially have one player get dispelled on her before, or on them before they jump into the middle, and then you just have 2 to deal with next to the boss, rather than trying to spread out 3 or 5 players. So on Mythic, I think that will be way more prevalent, where you have to do like 2 fast dispels before boss jumps into the middle, and then you do the rest there. But I'm also thinking on heroic, what we tried to do sometimes, which was more difficult than I'd like to admit, but just have 3 marks around the middle, and have, 1 player with a swarm per mark, in like a triangle around the middle. So when boss teleports there, you could just mass dispel, which kind of worked on normal at least, but I don't know how the damage will be on heroic if you mass dispel with the raid-wide damage taken.
You still definitely can. We did a mass dispel as well on the heroic difficulty, but yeah, it's not going to be something you're going to be able to do on Mythic for sure. They have other mechanics to prevent you from doing that on Mythic.
Yeah.
But the other thing to remember too is that the cadence is actually different. So this is another ability that's going to happen twice in this phase, where the stinging swarm comes out and you have to stop this raid-wide wipe, similar to stopping the charge in the first phase. It only happened twice. So this happens twice in this phase, but the timing of the other abilities around that cast is different in this phase. So like the first one you were mentioning, the boss is actually not in the middle of the room. You have a lot of time to, you can put a debuff on her while they're on the outside of the room, and then they'll do a jump to the middle and start their big cast. So then you need to put your last buffs, or even all 3 of your buffs on the boss at that point. But for the second cast, they actually jump to the center of the room way earlier. So they jump to the center of the room. They do some other abilities in the center of the room. So you can actually mess yourself up if you try and do an early cast of the debuff. Of course, people are gonna have boss
Yeah.
timers when this is actually out, so be something to pay attention to. But some of the other abilities is there's like a big pull in from where is it? Is it Web Vortex? Yes, Web Vortex, where the boss pulls all players in. They binds a few of them, and then does an AOE
Yeah.
around them. So you have to get out of that. And so that actually is just before the second detonation. So it can be a bit chaotic for sure.
Yeah, I remember that now that you mention it, that it swapped halfway through. One thing I'm also seeing, and I remember seeing that Sky Spinner occasionally uh, did a web frontal during that phase,
Yes.
and I never knew if it was bugged or if it was, she just randomly sometimes throws away a web cone.
Yeah, I think that's another new ability in this phase. It's not a super impactful one or big one, but it's just a second frontal. So there's now two
Yeah.
frontals cast at differing points in this phase.
Also, I'm noticing on mine, like when the Sky Spinner pulls us in, one player, or it looks like that on my screen, gets a big white circle around them. I don't know if that's an indication where you're gonna snap your web,
That
or
is,
if
yeah.
it's
That's the web snap indication. So actually what happens when you get gripped in by Sky Spinner in this phase and in the last phase is it binds, it seems like, the whole raid. So everyone gets bound to a buddy. Just like in the first phase, if you were getting bound to make the webs to stop the charge, this does the same
yeah,
thing but to a random player. And this is how you would stop the charge when it comes back in phase 3. You have to
yeah.
have not everyone snap their webbing after that happens, and then the people who don't snap can go and block the charge.
But it's also interesting, right? It's a bit of a sludge fist throwback with the chains.
Yeah.
Because when you get pulled in and you have to run out, you have to make sure, if you're the one who's going to break the charge, you have to make sure to do it, run out of the AoE, in time with your web body, or you will break it. Because I watched myself, I wasn't going to do the charge, but, I just bomb rush away there and insta snap it. And
Yeah.
depending on how fast the circle goes on Mythic, like the actual detonation, that could be quite stressful. You get linked to a mage and they go blinky blink.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sludge fist, anyone? No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think yeah, in phase 2 it doesn't matter, right? Because you're not stopping a charge.
Yeah.
But yeah, in phase 3, we definitely had to make sure, okay, everybody, if you're assigned to one of these people, make sure you don't instantly snap your thing. We need to stop the charge.
And then when we get to, I believe, 100 energy again, or 33%, not sure which.
I think it's
But
both.
we get these. It could be either or.
Yeah, because I think it's based on the energy, and then they have the built-in 33% timer, which is actually what I think they tested, by the way, on the second testing of this boss. On the first testing of this boss, they didn't have the built-in health threshold. So I think we pushed into the last phase at like 10% boss HP or something and just killed the boss before anything happened. So,
that's still there.
Yeah,
the 10% bug was still there, at least. Like we took so long when we killed it on normal, like it took forever, and when we hit 10%, they just stood there.
Oh no, I mean, like we phased into P3
okay.
with the bosses at like 10% HP, so we killed them before any of the actual overlaps happened.
Okay.
Not
But it
that
was a bug where they'd stop doing
That's
anything
funny.
at 10%. Or no, I think it was the enrage timer. I think we figured that out, that was supposed to be the enrage timer.
Oh,
but
it was
instead
broken?
They just stopped doing mechanics. Like they just stand there and auto attack a little bit.
That's good.
But
That's
yeah,
good.
so when we hit 33% or full energy again, they will jump into the middle, or this time it's a noob jumping into the middle and Sky Spinner sneaking into the void, I guess.
Something like that.
Avoiding us. So this one was interesting. When I tried it, it was the freeze flag day.
Oh
So
yes.
we'd get, you know, rando 3 to 5 seconds freeze flag, and that intermission was crazy fun trying to do that
Yeah, it's
when
basically
we
a
were
bunch
lagging.
of random sized, random positioned Kurog circles, right?
Yeah.
And if you get hit, you get impaled by the spike, and people have to break you out, or you have to use like an immunity to get out. Uh, but yeah, it's really cool looking. If we weren't
Yeah, I
lagging the
love
entire
this
time.
one. There was some really rude overlaps I noticed. I don't know if it will be RNG, how they spawn, or if it'll be, you know, predictable.
Yeah, it was hard to tell.
But some of them were. I remember one overlap. I think I have footage of it somewhere, but it was just mean. It was just really rude. But I really like the look of it, and you still got to try and maximize uptime, which is going to be, I guess, especially spicy for melee, um, to break the shield so you can get into phase 3 again.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that, I mean, you get perma stunned by the spikes, which isn't fun, but it's more fun than, you know, when you get spiked, you get stunned for 5 seconds and there's nothing you can do. But here you can break them out, so at least you can counteract it somehow and gain some, you know, extra dam.
Yep.
Look good on the logs,
Yep.
pad some.
True. Big. Definitely won't be removed from logs.
No, they like padding.
But yeah, luckily this phase is pretty easy to explain because it's the same as phase 2, right? So Skyne Spinner is still the same empowered Skyne Spinner with the exact same abilities, and then Anubarash just has his charge again. So instead of
Yeah,
having to only deal with one of the big mechanics, you now need to deal with both in this phase. So you've got to, get the webbings, and you get the webbings now not from web puddles on the ground, but from that Skyne Spinner pull in. It assigns
yeah,
random web partners, basically, it seems. So you now have to make sure you're watching and you have enough people who don't snap their web, and everyone else needs to snap their web to reduce the raid damage. And then you also need to watch for the dispels when that comes out and make sure you're
yeah.
getting the 3 dispels onto the Skyne Spinner and interrupting the big raid wipe cast. So there's a lot going on in this phase.
A theory I heard thrown around during raid testing was to force 2 debuffs on one of the tanks, and then, you know, because then you have it on one tank, the tank take damage, because it seemed sometimes like the debuffs in phase 3 went out a lot earlier than in phase 2, but I could be wrong.
Uh, yes, phase or sorry, earlier in phase. It seemed like it come out earlier in phase 2, if that's what you meant. Sorry, maybe I misheard
I
because
meant phase 3 that you were sitting on the debuffs for a longer
for a longer
duration,
time. Uh,
but I could be wrong.
maybe it's on the one we only got one cast in the P3 we saw, and it came out a similar time before as the first cast in P2, right? Because maybe it's different though. It's like P2, the first one of set of ads that come out is like shortly before the first entropy, but the second set of debuff story that come out is you have a big gap. Maybe it's something like that.
It could be. I just remember thinking I have to check through my footage for the timing. But I remember, speaking is hard. Remember some players talking about just trying to get debuffs on the tank, and then tank can just run in and you dispel
Yeah,
that and one extra player.
yeah,
Um,
that is true. Like that is actually a strategy we were talking about as well. It's because it's like the damage ramps up, right? And we
yeah,
thought, okay, on heroic, probably aren't gonna do this. I don't know, because you have time between
yeah,
for the second debuff, right? So you could do it if you wanted. It requires more coordination to do that, but if you're gonna optimize heroic strats, that's
yeah,
probably something you could do because the tanks are kind of sitting there doing nothing on heroic.
yeah.
There's not a ton of tank damage, and so that could make something that's very dangerous to 2 other players instead be a little dangerous for the tank instead. But yeah, it's looking like that's not going to be something, or maybe it is something you'll do on Mythic. I don't know if you want to transition to the Mythic mechanic stuff now, but we
I
could.
figured we'd have another evening and just go over the mythic stuff, but we can talk about it briefly because I think, like you said, if there's 5, debuffs on Mythic, then in theory you could have, 2 on each tank. But I don't know if both tanks can at any point go into the middle, or if that will screw something up. Like the Anub tank, will they be able to run into the middle for this spell? Because if they sit on it for a prolonged duration, it's probably easier to have it on tanks. But again, it all depends on how it's tuned. It might be super cake to heal
Yeah,
the
yeah.
5 players with it.
Yeah, the mythic mechanic that I've been kind of referencing but not talking about,
Yeah.
where this strategy works on heroic, but mythic it doesn't work. Is Let's talk about that. So basically,
Yep.
um, it seems like at the beginning of the fight, potentially, players will get assigned a debuff, either Whispers of Paranoia if they're one of the 10 closest players to Skyne Spinner, or Whispers of Rage if they're one of the 10 closest players to a Nubarash. And you're just gonna have this mark now for the rest of the fight. So
With the dispel.
yes, this is just a debuff on you. So it just
Okay.
basically think of this, at least the way I think about it, it's Anduin debuffs for the entire fight, is what it seems like. Half your raid, assuming, because you have to have everyone get marked, otherwise you instantly die. So half your raid is going to have the blue mark from Skyne Spinner, and half of your raid is going to have the red mark from a Nubarash. If you ever get within 4 yards of someone without your mark, you die.
That could be fun though. I mean, I have a hate-love relationship with mechanics like that, like the mechanic or Anduin mechanic or Star Augur. Like I love them from an execution standpoint, but they're also so fucking frustrating to prog with.
It's also for the whole fight, right? Like Anduin debuff was only, it wasn't that for everything. This is going to be, it's I assume anyways, you're going to get this at the start of the fight basically, and you're going to have, red team and blue team. But that's not the only thing this debuff does. So on top of this, you will get whenever there's raid damage. So some examples of the raid damage are the green circles we were talking about in phase 1. It's the dispelling of the magic debuff in phase 2. It's that raid hit every 22 seconds we were talking about in the intermission.
Yeah.
Any of those causes every single player in the raid to drop a little like moat on the ground. And the only people that can soak these moats are the people of the opposite debuff.
Oh.
So you're going to drop these moats. These moats, you have 15 seconds to soak up these moats. Otherwise, they debuff everyone of the opposite debuff. And basically how this works is you can't have just one person soak them all, because you also instantly die if you hit 3 stacks of the soak debuff. So
that sounds amazing and horrible at the same time. My brain is already trying to wrap itself around how you do X or Y mechanic, because like you said, in the intermission then you get that 22 sec blast, and I assume it's only there to trigger that mechanic.
Exactly.
So you have to do moats while doing that. So not only does the entire raid or half the raid have to split from the other half during this mechanic, which somewhat rando puts out cones, so they have to do that without running into each other, but then also drop moats and do, as someone in chat said, a Denathrius orb flashback where you rotate the wrong way to pick up the opposite team's moats. I mean, that sounds awesome, but horrible too. That would be fun.
Yeah, and the way there's some like leeway there, right? So like the soak debuff, which you can have a maximum of 2 stacks of, it only lasts 8 seconds, whereas the moats explode after 15 seconds. So in theory, you could soak 2, let your debuff fall off, and if you got there quick enough, you could soak 2 more. But
I'm also thinking now the circle intermission.
Yeah.
Like dealing with it there.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so in theory you can sit in those phases forever, but on Mythic every 22 seconds you now have to deal with moats, which I mean maybe is something you choose to deal with. I don't know how like it seems like the intermission, at least the first intermission, doesn't actually seem too challenging to deal with the moats, because like you said, basically what we saw is there was always two safe spots directly across from each other almost. slightly off directly across from each other. So it wouldn't be too bad, I think, to just have red side be on one and blue side be on the other. And then you just, like you said, rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise when the motes come out and pick those up. But yeah, the
Yeah.
second intermission is going to be interesting because it seemed a bit more random. And
Yeah, I mean
definitely
that.
the phase, especially phase 2 and phase 3, with the stinging swarms getting dispelled and then spawning motes on all 20 players, right? Because if you have 5
Oh
stinging
yeah.
swarms you now need to put on the boss, do you really want to concentrate them onto the tanks, causing you to need to dispel it 2 more times,
Yeah.
meaning spawning 40 more motes to put it on a tank, right? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, on Mythic you would probably not do that. That's for sure. But yeah, that sounds really horrible and interesting at the same time. I think I like it. I think.
Yeah, it's just this
Yeah.
boss fight, it sounds super cool. I am positive if it stays in the current state, this is going to be like Tindral levels of pulls.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was like, okay, this will be fun to try, but I'm gonna enjoy watching Race the World first.
Yeah.
Deal with that, because that's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, it's going to be
Uh,
crazy.
Also, forgot to mention in phase 3, the intermission from Anubarash continues, so he occasionally does 3 rings, kind
Oh,
of
yes.
exactly like
Yeah.
on Kurog. But it seemed to be kind of smolder on esque with the rings because it didn't go, center, middle, far out. For us, it started, one in the middle, then far out, then center.
Yeah, so he has that. That actually replaces his frontal, I think, right? Yeah, he doesn't do the frontal
Could
in the
be.
last phase. He does that ring thing. And then he also gained a group damage thing instead of the ads, so he no longer spawns ads, I think.
Yeah.
And instead he does an 8-second dot on the entire raid that ramps every second by 30% damage. So yeah, we
Would
didn't
that
mention
trigger
those,
the
but
moat?
yeah. I believe it does. Let's see. Unleashed Swarm. Let's see. Triggered by no, it doesn't look like that triggers the moats.
Maybe a bit too much. Maybe too much.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, the rain is already triggering the moats. Actually, the rain doesn't happen outside of phase 1, does it?
That
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so that's actually not too bad either. But I think, let's see, is the grip in triggering the moats? Let's see that. What is the grip in called? It's called Web Vortex. Does Web Vortex trigger this? Yes, it does. Yeah, so the pull in, the Web Vortex pull in, which is also going to be interesting,
Ooh.
right? Because you're pulling
Yeah.
the entire raid in, and half the raid is marked differently. So maybe you just have to be on opposite sides of the boss when that pull in happens. Otherwise, you instantly die. But when you get pulled in, you're also going to spawn a ton of motes. So
So
that's
you have
going to
to
be
run
good.
back. The question is when the moat
Yeah.
spawns. Like, do they spawn when you land or as you're running out? Because I
I
mean,
just,
assuming you insta die if 2 different marks hit each other, then like you said, you'd have to split either an opposite side of the bosses, so one
yeah.
group, one half slightly to the right, one slightly to the left, so they land in different spots. But then you got to run out from the AoE
Yeah.
and have the webs, and then run back in to clear the mobs or the moats, potentially with the web still up.
Yeah, and so it looks like it's the wording of it, and what I would expect is that it drops the motes on your initial position, not on your pull-in position, because it says it deals the
Yeah,
damage and then draws players in. So I would expect it to be dropped, wherever you were. But still, yeah,
and then you can control it.
yeah, that's an interesting overlap for sure. Because
Yeah.
like we were talking about, the first dispel, at least on heroic, timings could change on mythic, but the first dispel comes shortly after the first web vortex on heroic. So you then need to get your dispel stuff ready uh, after that happens.
Jesus Christ. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll
that's
be.
good.
It's gonna be fun watching Race the World first, and then try it when it's nerfed. Uh, yeah, I guess it'll get nerfed.
Oh, for sure.
Um, Otherwise, I don't think there was any other mechanic here that we
Yeah.
missed. I don't think so.
Yeah, and I think that's all the mythic mechanics too. There's not a lot. but they
Doesn't
impact
need to be if they're
every
well
yeah,
made.
yeah, they impact everything. So
Oh, that's. I'm looking forward to this. But no, this fight just overall, I loved it from the start to the finish on both heroic and normal. It's really cool mechanics, really well made.
yeah,
Like everything made sense, even though it was incredibly hard. It wasn't, you could still kind of figure it out. Like, okay, this is obviously how they want it to be
yeah.
played.
Yeah, I have good feelings about this raid so far, and obviously
Oh yeah.
all that could be changed by the final boss, and if that's a boss in a bad spot. But I, I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. So I'm looking forward to this raid a lot. I'm really hyped.
Even if you're tanking.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah,
just got buff it up so you get slapped a bit.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, like I said, like the last boss can like make or break the raid for you, and that one sounds significantly more interesting as a tank player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and
I guess it's
kind of depends on the
how you go.
spec you're playing too, right? Because like if I'm playing like a warrior where I just do nothing but tank, then yeah, it might be a little rough. But if you're playing
Yeah.
other specs, like I was talking about paladin, blood DK often gets some jobs. So if you have a spec that has some other jobs outside of tanking, it can be more interesting. But yeah, it's we're here for the hard bosses, so we'll see how those go.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say. It's you spend the most amount of time normally on the final bosses, and as long as those are good, the raid usually ends up good. And especially as a tank, if you're gonna get punished for 300 pulls, might as well be on a good fight. So the other ones don't matter as much if they're boring. But yeah, I remember tanking raid fights and stuff like that, and it was just. I mean, Nathria comes to mind immediately, where it was fun on Sludge Fist was the first fun I had there, and I don't remember if SLG was fun. I just remember not liking the fight, but the Nathrius was amazing to tank. It was one of the better fights I've done.
Yeah, no, that was a fun
So
fight. I really liked Sludge Fist as well. Sludge Fist was super fun. With the whole like being bound to your tank buddy and then having your own
yeah,
soak on the pillar and all that stuff. That
it's
was
like
good.
half a second to soak those
Yeah.
damn boulders. God, that
Yeah.
was annoying. Had no counterplay. If you and the tank were slightly off sync and ran, the same direction, you couldn't, change direction and run
Yeah.
back. It was
I
okay.
really
We
liked
ran the
it
same
though.
way. We wiped.
You had to like come up with your own like rules between you and your co-tank for
Yeah.
soaking. I enjoyed that a lot.
No, it was. It's like I said, Sludge Fist was fun. But speaking of Sludge Fist, so I figured we'd, if you're down to clown, do one more evening of this at least, and just talk about the mythic stuff on the bosses. Since we don't have to address every mechanic or anything, we can just go through all the mythic stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just talk all the mythic. Yes, mythic testing is all this week basically, and then it'll be done. So yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I'm down. Yeah.
So I mean, if time allows, we could probably do it next week.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And we can meet up at a dusty old bar and talk tank stuff.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is kind of
Remember?
disappointing the state of the tank stuff in this raid. It's doesn't seem too involved, but can't win them all, I guess.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember like what they could do to make fun tank mechanics, because I get it when they design it that the main focus is the fight, the encounter as a whole. And if you have something like a new or the Silken Court, although this one seemed to be pretty fun for tanks, but you can't really shoehorn in more mechanics just for a tank, because then the whole encounter might make less sense. And
Yeah,
I think I mentioned it in our last talk. Like, I personally enjoyed to tank fights that are incredibly scripted, and you expect a lot of movement from the tank. So you got to remember, Jailer. One fun part of Jailer was the movement,
oh
that you
yeah,
had to remember. Like, okay, now we go here, and now we go to this pillar, and like you had to remember all of that and learn all of that.
Yeah, and I
So
think
those fights are always fun.
that was a big strength of Farok too, right? It's like if you look at
Yeah,
the tank mechanics, there's not a lot there. But if you look at the movement of that fight, specifically in phase one, the
yeah,
phase one movement on that fight is crazy. And that is like a big
yeah,
portion of keeping the tank engaged is in how you move throughout that fight. And
yeah,
then you're also doing other things like you're double soaking, and you're managing your defensive CDs to live through double soaking and having a debuff during the pull in, all that other stuff. But it's yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting the same vibe because like Silken Court as an example, right? Like we were talking about, like in theory, you
yeah,
could probably almost one tank the big debuff and have another tank just take the magic debuff constantly. And
yeah. And
then
then there's nothing.
there's no movement really because one boss is stationary and you can't go too close to the other group of players. But it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little weird. I'm not sure how it's going to be for tanks, to be honest with you, because again, like you're saying, maybe there would be that situation where you want to funnel your stinging swarms onto your tank and deal with that, but then with the mythic mechanic, do you really want to do that? And so
exactly.
it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Future video idea. We collect some other high-end tanks and just talk. What can we do for tanks? Tanks needs attention. They need to have fun too.
Yeah, I mean, at
Because
least
I mean, it's how you go.
I think Nexus Princess though is like an example of doing the movement right, because I think that's going to be
Yeah,
another like on the fly adjust tank movement boss fight, right? So like, yeah, the tank debuff is boring. It hits like a truck, but it's boring. Um, but there's a lot of other stuff to do in terms of boss, like minor movement optimizations on that
yeah.
boss fight, which seem interesting.
And even on like heroic level, if you just pug or YOLO go, the tank can kind of control the entire fight with their movement because you can counteract DPS placing the ads or images poorly
Yeah, exactly.
by just moving the tank. Which I mean, I did that while raid leading it. I wasn't tanking, but I always pinged somewhere like go here. This should offset the pull-in effect. And those decisions you could easily do yourself as a tank, just seeing where the images currently are and do a little simple geometry and move the boss
Yeah.
to counteract it.
This is why I have a math degree for this boss fight. I'm ready.
I have a meth degree. No, might work less well.
Close. It might be
It's just- yeah,
valuable. Yeah.
I-
Yeah. Yeah, this has been fun, dude. I'm glad you reached out and we having these talks. It's been good.
Yeah, same. No, it was a YOLO because like I want to collab more overall with other content creation
Oh yeah, for sure.
creators because I just find it fun. Like it's interesting talking to other people and getting their view on things, on mechanics. Because like during raid strats, we're talking about it. I have my own ideas. Like my brain goes constant when it comes to mechanics, but that doesn't mean I'm always automatically correct. Like as soon as you get someone else's input, you'll be like, ah, yeah, that might be a better way. And then from that, you might get more ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Communicating. It's fun,
It's crazy how that works. Yeah, it's wild.
right? It's so weird. So yeah, that's fun, and I think if we still remember it and feel like it when the raid is active or done, like either after Race to World First or after you or UN, my guild is done with progress, we meet up again and just recap the fights how they actually played out during prog.
Yeah, because I think what we were talking about before is like if we got like 3 or 4 people with
Yeah,
like at different raid levels after they were all done progressing, and kind of see, have the different perspective of what is this like for guilds at different ranks, like because sometimes like Tindral I think is a great example of how
yeah,
people at different ranks view that fight so insanely differently. It's kind of cool.
yeah. I thought about that exactly when we started talking because Like, I remember Tendril so fondly,
Yeah.
even playing enhancement on it, which is not great on that fight. But the fight in itself was so much fun, and progging it was so much fun. And like, I literally almost was euphoric when we killed it. I was just, this is one of the best shit I've ever done. This was so good. And then fast forward 2-3 weeks, and you go in on Twitter or anything, and you just see every raid guild bombard Tendril. That it's the worst, it's so horrible, it needs nerfs. And like, it's just a completely different view from it, from what I had, which is a good, wake up call, that just because I like something doesn't mean everyone else does. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see exactly why. I mean, I have my guesses on why it differs, right? But to hear, like you said, other ranks input on how they felt progging Tindra, like where were your pain points? What is it that ruined it for you? I mean, Tindril, I can think it's as simple as it requires a lot of coordination, and the lower you tend to, at least the lower you go in ranks, the less coordinated it gets.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of a sudden, all those coordination one shots, they aren't so fun when, little Timmy is getting hit by it literally every single pull,
Like, because I remember that started on Smolderon with players getting annoyed at the orbs because
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, we sat 120 pulls and we got to the first intermission because all we did was wipe to the orbs."
Y-
Because someone dumbed it up always, and Tindril was
Yo,
certainly
damn, Pierce up.
worse
Yeah, that is
on
the
that aspect.
stinky. Yeah. But yeah, it's always cool to hear, and also it also kind of depends on the state of Blizzard's tuning that patch too, right? Or like the
Oh yeah,
frequency of their tuning rather, right? Because like if they had nerfed Tindril like 2 weeks before they did, I don't know if you would have the same sentiment of like everyone hates Tindril, right? Because all of a sudden now the fight is in a much better state for those guilds getting to it at that time. I think it was just a situation of them not actually nerfing it when they needed to.
yeah. I mean, it's a tough one though,
Oh yeah.
because I remember, like, it's such a hard line to draw when to nerf, because it's always going to affect someone. But I'm guessing Tindril sooner would have been better. But I remember Halandras when they nerfed that
Yeah.
one, the big nerf, where they made the bombs take a minute instead of 12
I
seconds.
remember, yeah.
And I remember, guilds who had 300 pulls, and then they go in the next week and they literally fart and the boss dies. Like, that feels so bad.
Yeah.
And I've been in that situation. Like, you've progged your jailer for one, but you prog your ass off, and then they just take away half the fight, and you're like, well, thanks for taking away all satisfaction from all the work we did.
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to make was that might be 20 to 50 guilds who are in that situation or in that spot, where the nerfs might hurt them. So I still think it might be better to throw those guilds under the bus for the greater good, because there's going to be a lot more guilds who are probably going to enjoy it more because they can actually kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Sepulcher is a good example for me because I was in a lower ranked guild at the time, but we hit Halandris the week before it got nerfed, so that was good timing for us. But then we ended up hitting Secret Phase on Jailer the week before it got nerfed. So that one was the feels bad, man. When we came in on the next week and just nuked that boss because the Phase 3 and Secret Phase didn't exist anymore. And
yeah, we were wiping on that part. Like, we had gotten to the secret stuff and was trying to get past it, and then next raid we come in and like 20% of the last phase was just gone.
Yeah. It was is that the biggest single nerf to happen to a boss at one time, that Jailer nerf? Because that was massive.
It might be, but they continued after or before that. It might have been before, because
there was one before, right after Hall of Fame. I think there was a nerf to Jailer, and then there was that nerf, I think.
Because I remember there was several, but I don't remember the timing of them, because I worked on the guide and I had to rewrite it at least 3 times, the end of it, because the strat kept changing, because steps kept being taken away.
Yeah.
And previous step you made different because they removed other steps, and it was just like, I was like, come on, I just want to release something that works.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. So because that has happened to me, I totally get the people not wanting
Yeah,
the nerfs, right? Like I totally get it. Like it feels awful to have a boss you're
yeah,
so close to killing get nerfed, and then not that ranks matter, but losing several hundred ranks because people rated on
yeah,
those nerfs before that you were ahead of.
yeah,
It does suck, right? That does suck. But at the same time, it also is, for the larger portion of the community, probably nerfs that do need to happen at some point. They are coming at it with a different approach, they've said, this patch for War Within, because they've been talking about having a buff for
yeah. I remember
players,
that.
right? Similar to Aldir, the Aldir buff they had back in BFA. They're talking about doing that instead. So potentially they'll need to nerf bosses less, but still, if you get into like the Tindril situation, where you have several
Yeah,
different abilities that happen very frequently that just one shot your raid no matter how much damage or healing you do, right? Those are still things that probably will need to end up getting nerfed at some point, but we'll have to see how that addresses the rest of the raid, not or still getting nerfs.
yeah. No, I do think it's I think that's a better strat overall. Just incrementally buffing everyone like
Yeah.
ICC style or
Yeah,
older, like
exactly.
you said, because even though you have fights that are going to be mechanically complex where gear doesn't matter, those same fight can have overlaps where gear does
Yeah.
matter. You need to push a certain breakpoint, or you need to do this or that, which might be incredibly hard to do with complex mechanics. But if you then get buffed on top of it, you can push through those, or overpower them, and maybe solve the other things. But when you have to do both at the same time, it can be really tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like maybe now you were able to actually kill a mythic boss with two people dead, like
Yeah,
whereas before maybe you couldn't do that.
yeah. And like if we take a fight, like not that I remember it being dramatically difficult. But if we had Rasageth with the a big thing was the absorb shield in phase two,
Yeah.
I believe it was, where you had to break that absorb shield and you had to play around it, with cooldowns and everything to actually break it. And if you didn't, well, everyone died. And I remember at least a few wipes to that. And I remember other guilds after my guide came out, trying to optimize that shield push because, well, the faster the better for numerous reasons. Uh, and having just a stacking buff the longer the raid is out will help other guilds push through things like that absorb way easier.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I need War
Yeah, it's gonna
Within
be.
to drop now, immediately.
I don't. I need it to drop in like 3 months so I can make all the content I want to make.
That's true. I'm not considering that, okay?
Rude, rude.
It is soon though. It's less than 2 months
Oh,
away. That is
yeah, it's
crazy.
horrible. I have panic. I haven't even found a guild yet. I haven't even
Oh,
looked
you
yet.
still haven't? Have you been applying? What are you doing, dude?
I'm biding my time and hoping something sorts itself out. That's how I usually do. Now I've had some offers, but right now I'm still in the stage of trying to figure out what world rank I want to play in. Might
Yeah,
be
that's
that
fair.
I play at a lower world rank for the first tier, because everything is in the middle of a move as well. Because I'm
Oh.
moving in like a month or so.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so it's gonna be quite chaotic. So I might chill first tier, or at least go lower rank, and then when I'm when I feel more settled in, I might go higher up again.
That's fair. That's fair. That's a tough moving time.
Yeah, I love the release cadence. It's working out super well for me right now. Damn it! Why
Yeah.
would they consider me the lone player?
Suffering from the success of constant content.
Ugh,
Do be like that.
ugh. But I figured we'd round it up, and then we'll talk a bit more potentially next week after Mythic testing.
Yeah, I'm down.
We'll decide on a time.
Yeah, we'll figure it out after
Might
testing
be.
this week. Yeah.
I mean, that'll be good. But thanks again for joining. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, man. Likewise. It was, thanks for reaching out. It was good. It's yeah, and I'm excited to do more stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's it. But yeah, we'll talk more. And thanks again. I'ma hop off the
Yep.
Discord. See you around.
Yeah, have a good one, man. See ya. Boom. Okay, dude, that was fun. Yeah. Shout out Stanky. Shout out Stanky. Don't throw shame on us. Listen, technically, there's no shame. There's no shame in being a lower rank. Yeah, I was looking, Kitch. I was looking for it, but yeah, it doesn't look like the dungeon journal's been updated. That's the wrong boss. But yeah, because I think it was also like Wowhead had the updates to like Sikrin and stuff, but they weren't actually in game. So I wonder, I mean, we'll see this week, right? This boss is being tested on Mythic this week. It would be so funny though if they just didn't think of that. But they must have thought about the pull-in for sure. Certainly. Tuesday nerf Tinjo, the big one, 6 orbs, Mythic Seeds no longer wipe and raid. I'll also drive to push just raid logging from then on, world rank 400. Yeah, it's just tough, dude, because like when you, especially like if you're late in the boss prog already, it feels bad for sure. Supposed to be having a stroke that I've closed it. No, I think I remember something similar too, but who knows? I don't have any source, so I'm making it up. You know what I mean? Classic making it up. Oh, I can send you a log. Where is it? I have to find it. Please hold. Please hold. Is this our log? Did we make this up? This is a random log. Oh, this is Brock's log. Where's our log? Oh, this is Stanky's log. I got Stanky's log. Where's my log? How far up am I going to have to scroll to find my log? We need a log channel. Why do we not have a log channel? Scrolling. What did we do last? What was the last testing? Sikrin. Oh, sure. These should have. Where you at, logs? We're almost there. Surely there's a. Aha. No. Okay. I wanted to try delves because I haven't actually done that. Let me change my title. Find out delves. Right. Let me go to the washroom real quick, and then we'll go spelunky. Okay. Delve Wayfinder. All right, let's just start at the top. Fungal folly. What do we do here? How do I edit brand? Do I do it here? God. Area ahead is dangerous. Turn back. This is like, let's say tier 4. Explosive spore bits infest the delve. Pursue adventurers if they detect movement or are damaged. And Zekvir is like the 13th delve guy, right? So he has an impact on all of them. He empowers random enemies. But where's my brand? Where's my brand? Do I have to talk to someone here to like do my brand stuff? I don't actually know. My brand gonna be a little baby if I go into a thing? Find out, I guess. Fungal folly. Alright, we're just gonna go in. We're gonna start at tier 4. Oh, Brand, what's up, homie? Okay, how do I see my brand, though? Like, I haven't done anything to my brand. Brand! Oh, damage dealer. Okay, what do we got here? Guide his shot for 4 seconds, refining towards the location and dealing moderate physical damage. Okay. Spells and abilities have a chance to weaken enemies, increasing the chance to critically strike them. Okay. When any player's health falls below 40% during combat, the idol awakens, dealing moderate physical damage to nearby enemies and taunting them for 4 seconds. Okay. Abilities have a chance to awaken the idol, shielding an injured player. Nah. When any player uses a defensive ability with a cooldown of 30 seconds or longer, the idol activates and heals them. Nah. Brand calls for it. Jumping on him will cause him to hurl players into their enemies. Okay. I mean, I think we probably do... I mean, let's try this one. See how much damage that does. Why not? I mean, it's only single target. That's probably fine. While in combat, a blood beast attach itself to Brand, periodically launching morsels of itself, increasing damage and healing, and reducing maximum health by 10%. Okay. When he gathers tools, transfers chance to unearth a powerful artifact. Okay. Brand spells and abilities have a chance to create bursts of energy. Casting movement, periodic effects, cooldowns, and attacks. Oh, that's cool. On entering combat, players gain either massive or miniature until combat ends, 50-50. So you get 20% increase or reduced size, 10% health, healing down or haste. A lot of combat, 15% move speed, and 5% haste in combat for 20 seconds. Cheat death. Oh, it's not even a cheat death. You will die over 6 seconds or something, I guess. Unless you can heal through it. Oh, no, you cannot be healed. When a steel trap is activated, there's a chance to brand throw an additional trap. I don't want to see what this is. All right. That's cool. View goods and repair. Fungal folly. Do I just jump? Or like, what's the... I'm jumping. If I die, I'll be mad. Is this rope taking me back up? Nah, I'm good. No. Oh, bouncy mushroom. Let's go. Okay, boom. Okay, so that's his little scopy thing. Kill it. We're good. All right, I saved this guy. What are these? Are these the bouncy ones? They are. Bounce me again. Woo! What is this? Oh, I'm in the weird build, aren't I? Where I don't have raise. Yeah, okay. Get him. Send the proc. Oh, okay. Aim the bullet. That how much damage is that? It's not showing up on my thing. Yeah, there's no way it is. All right. We're delving. Decaying shrooms dispersed. Boom. Oh my god, that one was high. Okay. Okay. Think there's any chance to move Lunar Beam out of the Doom corner? I hope so. But do I think it's gonna happen before launch? I'm losing hope every day. Every day. Am I doing something here? Is there a thing happening here? He found some stuff. Oh, you get little anima powers. Oh. Interesting. But yeah, I have to actually move. Oh, I do have to move. I would like them to just roll the Berserk talents into one, and then you could just put Lunar Beam in this spot here, in Persistent spot. And that would make it like way, way, way nicer. You know? But yeah, we'll I have very little hope of that actually happening before launch. Maybe it happens in like 10:05 or 10:00 or is it 10? It's 11 now. 11:05, 11:07. But we're getting pretty close to the point where they just need to like lock in the build and stuff, I think, right? I don't know exactly how it works, but I feel like they've got to be pretty close. What are these guys buff? Crowd control. Oh, you're the empowered guy. Oh, is that the boss man? Well, that's a respawn point. Yeah, why isn't this in Mythic Plus? Hello? Oh, so Bran finding all this stuff is just stats. I understand. I got hit there? What's hitting me? Okay, that time I probably got hit. I'm dodging it. Okay. I'm real bad at this. Never mind, I'm insane. So one up there. Yeah, I like these bouncy mushrooms though. Boing. Yeah, the hunting scope doesn't seem to be doing that much damage, to be honest with you. Boing. Go away. It's back. We're good. We're safe. Dude, I've cracked the code. What are you gonna do to me? Oh god. This is so easy. Resonance crystals. Is that for Bran? I assume that's for Bran. My Bran's probably max. This delve is long than I expected. I mean, maybe it just kind of ends when I'm done this, but the first few steps were, oh my Jesus Christ, where am I? I didn't want to be here. But yeah, I thought the steps would be shorter for delves. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. Solo Mythic Plus without the timer? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't call it Mythic Plus, but it's basically their answer to solo slash small group content that is more bite sized, right? Because I think the goal is to both give something for solo players and groups of 2 or 3 players that can't form like a full Mythic Plus group, something to do that is less time. Oh, it's these shits. Less time consuming, right? Because I think the goal is also to make them on average shorter than Mythic Plus dungeons, right? Because Mythic Plus dungeons are what, 30 to 40 minutes per dungeon, and I think the goal is probably to do something that's closer in the avenue of like 10 to 15 minutes, which is good. I mean, that is the exact type of content they are missing. The my question mark is if, you know, what is it, the 11 rank delves are actually like difficult content to aspire towards, or if they're more, you know, not as difficult, or if the 13th delve is like, you know, original mage tower difficulty, or where that's at. But I think the idea is good. The question will be, is the execution actually going to work out, right? Because who knows, right? They've had things like Torghast, they've had things like island expeditions, which, you know, some were received. I mean, they were all received not great. Torghast had initial beta reception as being positive, but it was just kind of forced on you too much. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, because it seems like it's completely optional, really, because like the player power is lower than the other 2 forms of content. And I mean, I don't know if there's any special delve items. Maybe there are, because maybe that, like, this weapon that I have doesn't have like a source from like raids or dungeons, if I remember right. There was same with like a shield. There was a shield similarly, had special effects, didn't have a source. Maybe the only place to get that is actually the delves. So that could be interesting, but at least as a tank player, I don't think it'll matter because of the 33% reduction or whatever the reduction is on all of those mechanics. So it's doesn't really matter for us because I don't think we care that much about the proc doing 0.2% of my damage. But yeah, hopefully it's not islands again. Though to be fair, at the end of BFA, just walking in and blitzing an island in 2 pulls was kind of fun. Though, yeah, having to mandatory do it every week, especially when you were weaker, was not fun. For sure. Are these little? Yeah, these are little boings, and this is the big boing. Okay. This is the boss. This is it. This is the whole delve. Right? Does it even hurt? No, what are you doing? Was I even in my lunar beam there? Who really knows? Fungo explosion. Okay. Good shot, Brand. Shout out. Woo. Okay. Oh, so now he's gathering herbs, and what? This is just more stats that I don't need now, right? Oh, but these are actual herbs, so you can actually get stuff. And this is the little reward at the end. So can I open these heavy trunks? Yeah. So I got undercoin, cosmetic currency, I assume. A repeatable purchase objects. Oh, so are these the war resources? These are the war resources. This is to upgrade Bran. And this is just another currency for something. I don't know what. Note to myself, clean out bags. Oh yeah, dude. I need to do that on some of my characters. I've been farming Siege of Orgrimmar on a bunch of my plate characters, but I don't need to do that anymore. But I just have them in vendoring, and their bags are just full of epics. I need to just vendor everything, and then also get rid of all of the Dragonflight stuff on top of that. I just haven't gotten rid of yet. Need to do that at some point. Oh, we're back. Okay, so how it works then is like there's some variation, I think, from day to day. I think it is in that place. So that place might be slightly different. You might have some different objective in the middle. If on a different day, I think is how it works. Can I go higher than tier 4? And I have to actually go tier 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way down in one delve to unlock it. That's asking a lot. Bran. All right, let's try a different ability though, dog. This one sucks. Let's see. Where was it? Oh yeah, let's do that. And so this gave me stat increases when he found the thing. But let's see the cooldown reduction one. Oh, it's the candle one. How do I drop it? Options. Extra. Am I just the light? How do I put it down? I just gotta get a new candle. I'm just gonna moonfire everything. What are they gonna do? Go easy. So did I get to collect more candle? Is that what happened there? So timer is only used while you move. Is that the whole? That seems like it's it. Oh, I should drop my lunar beam. So what's this thing? Right. Just gonna keep moving. Bananas. What gave me that? Is that Bran? Bran's throwing bananas at me? Yo, let's go. Oh yeah, so the deal just does pause. And get more candle. Dang. 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 That guy instantly died. Alright, let's go, Bran. Oh, we should have kill kobolds? I didn't realize that was the objective. Alright, let's do it. Ah. Can you throw me? Nope. Get that guy. And get that guy. Here we go. Bang. Move as little as possible. Look at... Is that a boss, man? Boom, put that down. Get those guys. Kick you. Other guys are still alive. probably stood in all those abilities, but I guess it doesn't matter because it's only a rank 4 delve. Got another wick over there. Ooh. Damn. Kill these guys, I guess. Jump to me. Oh my Jesus. I did big damn. Let's go. Okay, we like that ability. Okay, so I really do wish there was a way to just have all the difficulties of delves unlocked. Because I don't want to go through and do every single delve on like a 4. I kind of just want to see what an 11 is like. You know what I mean? Now what? The central chamber reached. Is that this thing down here? Oh, is this your cooldown reduction zone? Oh yeah, it is. So these are the spooky packs that are buffed by the boss man. And he's gone. Run through this way. Get stuck on a wall. Dodge anyways. You got me some stuff? Alright. Yeah, because there's no way I'm going to do this delve like 5 more times to unlock an actual delve difficulty. That's going to take an hour. Even if I know what I'm doing. A lot. Ambush defeated. Yeah, I got you. Bam. More. I do kind of want to see how this new arcane one with all the damage buffs and stuff actually plays in Mythic Plus. I think the damage has got to be pretty high now after the buffs. It just feels weird, man. What's that? Oh. He picked me up. You picked me up again. Let's go. Yeah, like nothing's happened. Oh, he getting new stuff while doing this. He leveled up. Where do I check that? Level 11. Oh, so he can go higher than this, even though I asked him to buff my man. Can I just keep pressing that button? Oh, he goes higher. So you got these heavy trunks, which you get to pick one of, or I got both? No, I got both. Valor stones are like flight stones. I got some cress. Delve is an abundance of treasures. Wait. I don't know what that means. What's this thing on the ground? Can't loot it? Alright. Okay, so I mean, yeah, low level delves are kind of expected. I'll probably dabble with it a bit when it's on live, but there's absolutely no way if I can't just skip to the harder delves that I'm gonna be going through all this and testing all these delves, I think, on like starting at the level 4. Because my eye level was scaled down too, right? Yeah, I was scaled down to the eye level and I was still crushing it. Yeah. Can I do this again? What level is he? Do it again. Keep pressing it. Think he's giving me anything? I don't think he's giving me anything. Alright. Alright, okay, so what's the schedule look like this week? Let's take a quick look at raid testing, guys. Or within raid testing. Let's see, it's raid testing schedule. How do I see the source? Here we go. Okay, so what do we got this week? June, we're in July. Here we are. Wednesday, July 10th. Got Rationan and Brood Twister at 2 and then 3 Eastern. And then on Thursday, we've got Nexus Princess into Silken Court. So we got some heavy hitting bosses this week. Hopefully we get a new beta build Tuesday. Surely there's Guardian talent changes in that build. That's what my source told me for sure. They're coming. But otherwise, I think, yeah, I'm probably gonna hop off. I might put a video out. Something crazy happens tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll probably like cut together the stanky talk and I'll put that on YouTube. That one, an edited down version of the entire conversation we've had this time and last time combined. And yeah, I'll be streaming Wednesday and Thursday, doing these bosses, maybe doing some Mythic Plus after as well, depending on what's changed, see how the dungeons have changed, work on that kind of stuff. But yeah, appreciate. Otherwise, just working on prepping all the content for the War Within, guys. So hopefully you enjoy it. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Appreciate the follows and the resubs today, guys. It means a lot. I'll see you guys later. Peace.